this will serve as the video tutorial for the formative layer mask practice. There will be 2 layer mask practice assignments. This is the first. There is an attached PSD file down below the picture here. Looks like this, gandalfmask.psd. Grab a copy of that. In this assignment, you will be using 2 types of layer masks, using a splatter brush to work on those layer masks and learning a little bit more about how they behave in Photoshop. So I'm going to grab a fresh copy here of the Photoshop document. So when you load up this PSD, you'll have a picture of Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. Let's take a look at what we've got so far here. I have done a piece of the work here for you, which is creating 2 layers. If you check your layer panel, they are 2 separate layers, one on the right side of his face and one composing the left side of his face and all this empty space over here. So cutting it down the middle of his face, but not necessarily the middle of the piece. It's pretty well seamless, so when both layers are active, you do not see the cut. So let's practice using what's called a layer mask, and this happens in your layers panel, and there's 2 types of layer masks. There's a black layer mask, which will hide away pixels temporarily, and a white layer mask that is a transparent layer that allows us to temporarily delete pixels. So let's see how this works in practice. Select layer 1, and we're going to add a regular layer mask on this top layer, and the icon to add a layer mask is down here at the bottom of your layers panel. If you hover over it, it says add layer mask. By default, when you click on that button, it's going to link. You can see this link between that layer now and what's called a layer mask. We'll explain what that means in a moment, but nothing visually has changed yet. If you go to layer 2, we're going to apply another type of layer mask by holding Option on our keyboard, holding that down, holding it down while I click Add Layer Mask. And that's going to add a black layer mask and temporarily hide away the pixels of that side. So layer masks, in short, allow us to make non-destructive edits to our pieces. So it allows us to kind of strategically reveal or hide away pixels without actually altering the piece itself. Let's see how this works in practice. You're going to select a brush today, and you're going to go into your brush settings, which is up top here. Your brushes may be hiding under pencil, color replacement, or mixer brush tool. But in this drop-down menu here, today we're going to be using some special effect brushes. So you may have to scroll down or zip up some of these folders to see special effects brushes. We're going to be using a spatter brush. So I'm going to use Kyle's Spatter Brush, Supreme Spatter and Texture Brush tool today. And bringing it over into my workspace here, the size is a bit small. I'm going to increase the size of the brush to, that might be a bit big. I'm going to go with maybe 364 pixels. So how a layer mask works in practice is that you are going to be painting with your brush the opposite color of your layer mask is the easiest way to think of it. So on layer 1, I have a white layer mask. So the opposite color to that would be a black brush. And down here at the bottom of my tools, I can see this handy little tool here that allows me to switch between 2 colors, a foreground color and a background color. And I can set either of those by clicking on them. So one should be black and the other should be white. So I'm going to set those, and then I can flip back and forth between them by hitting this little button here, or as you can see, the keyboard shortcut is X. So that allows me to switch back and forth. But on a white layer mask, I want to paint with black. So the top square here is the active color of the brush. And what I start doing is clicking around in the area of the left side, in this case, on this white layer mask. So what's happening is it's strategically kind of deleting, or seemingly deleting pixels, revealing the layer underneath that is right now transparent. Just brush is a little big. I might bring it down a touch for the seam here. So what's cool about layer masks is none of this is actually deleting any true pixels. It's only editing on this layer mask. So if I ever, like, say, screw up down the road and they're like, man, I really destroyed my piece here, you can simply delete just the layer mask. As you can see, that still is preserved underneath. The pixels themselves were never actually modified. Let me go ahead and add that layer mask again, though, and kind of paint around in this area. So our goal with this piece is to kind of eliminate this hard line more than anything. We're going to try to merge the two sides together. So I'm going to work that seam really hard and try to make that hard line kind of disappear. So I'm just kind of clicking and holding. This spatter brush kind of randomizes the positions of my spatters, and I'm going to just work that seam really hard, and eventually it gets to a point where I really can't tell that it was a hard cut there. Something like this. Now on the other side of my piece, on the right side, right now those pixels of the original image are hiding behind this black layer mask. So I'm going to hit X on my keyboard. That'll switch the foreground color to white. I can check that over here. I want to make sure I am painting on the layer mask and not the layer itself. Definitely want to be on the layer mask. And if I've checked all those things and start painting with my spatter brush, I can see that some pixels start to get strategically revealed underneath this layer mask. And again, non-destructive editing. So if at any point I want to, say, start over, delete these layer masks, I can easily do so. And looking at my piece here, I might be in the business of starting over on my white layer mask because this edge is looking a bit too harsh over here. So if you ever want to restart on a layer mask, you can delete the layer mask. A regular click is going to add a white layer mask. Option, holding down Option while I hold Option on my keyboard, and then adding a layer mask will add a black layer mask. I'm just going to try and I need to switch colors. I'm just going to try and work this so that it eventually kind of creates an effect where one side is blending into the next and hopefully creating kind of a seamless blur between the two. So your final result will look something like what I have here, and it's kind of fun to practice and see how those layer masks can be helpful editing in a again, the keyword is non-destructive. No pixels were harmed in the making of this piece, right? So just think about coloring with the opposite color of the layer mask and strategically reveal or hide pixels. And the end result, what I'm looking for is a nice kind of, like I said, I want to not notice the seam between these two halves of the piece. Very nice. So from here I'm ready to export out of Photoshop, and your final result will be a PNG submission to me. Rename it as whatever you want, but I would recommend changing the name of it just so that it does not overwrite your original file. Good luck.